In the fall of 2019, I sat in a classified briefing room inside the Defense Intelligence Agency. The subject of that briefing was a single question. What does Iran do if we cross the line they've drawn in the Persian Gulf? The answer filled 47 pages. We called it the asymmetric contingency file. I'm going to tell you what was in it, because what is happening right now in this war is not the full picture. Not even close. The missiles you've seen on the news, the drones over Dubai, the strikes on U.S. bases, that is Iran's opening hand. They have not played their real cards yet. My name is General Marcus Webb. I spent 34 years inside the United States Army intelligence structure, the last 9 of them at the Defense Intelligence Agency. I wrote threat assessments on Iran's military capabilities in 2014, 2017, and 2019. I briefed 3 Secretaries of Defense on Persian Gulf escalation scenarios. What I am telling you today is not speculation. It is the documented classified analysis that shaped American policy for a decade, and that Washington is now pretending does not exist. Because if the public understood what Iran is actually capable of doing, and has not yet done, the political support for this operation would collapse overnight. Every analyst covering this war is focused on missiles, drones, air defense systems. That is the visible layer of this conflict. The weapon I am talking about does not fly. It does not explode. It does not appear on radar. It is the Strait of Hormuz. More precisely, Iran's ability to close it, selectively, surgically, without firing a single offensive weapon. Here is what the numbers look like. 21 million barrels of crude oil transit the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That is approximately 20% of all oil traded globally. If that strait is disrupted, not even closed, just disrupted, the immediate market response is a price spike of $40 to $70 per barrel within 72 hours. We have modeled this. I have sat in the rooms where we modeled this. At $150 per barrel, the American economy enters a recession. At $180, the Federal Reserve loses control of the inflation response. At $200, which is within the range of a sustained closure, you are looking at a global financial cascade that makes 2008 look manageable. Iran knows this. They have known this for 30 years. It is the foundational assumption behind every military decision they have made since the 1990s. So why haven't they used it? This is the question that every analyst is afraid to answer publicly, because the answer reveals exactly how much leverage Iran still holds in reserve. Iran has not closed the strait because closing it ends the war immediately, on terms that are not favorable to Iran's long-term position. A closure triggers an American military response so overwhelming that it eliminates Iran's conventional deterrent within days. Iran knows this, so instead they are doing something far more sophisticated. They are threatening closure, repeatedly, in calibrated increments, forcing the United States and its allies to keep carrier strike groups positioned at the entrance to the strait, at a cost of approximately $4 million per day per carrier group, while Iran spends almost nothing maintaining the threat. This is the asymmetric arithmetic that is actually driving this war, and nobody on television is explaining it. In the contingency file I referenced, we identified 3 escalation thresholds that Iran could deploy in sequence, each one significantly more damaging than the last. The first threshold is underwater. Naval mines. Iran has an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 naval mines in its inventory. They have spent 20 years developing the deployment capability to seed the Strait of Hormuz in under 48 hours. A mine strait does not require Iran to fight the United States Navy. It simply makes transit too dangerous for commercial insurers to underwrite. No insurance, no tankers. No tankers, no oil. The strait closes economically before it closes militarily. The United States has not maintained a dedicated mine-sweeping capability in the Gulf since 2015. We retired those assets. Iran knows we retired them. The second threshold is financial, and this one keeps people at the Treasury Department awake at night. Iran has spent 15 years building a sanctions-proof financial network through Hezbollah, through Iraqi proxy militias, through shell companies across 12 countries. This network can move approximately $2 to $3 billion per year outside the SWIFT banking system. What that means in practical terms is that Iran can sustain this war financially for years, potentially a decade, without access to its frozen sovereign assets, without oil revenue, without any connection to the formal global banking system. The financial pressure campaign that Washington is running has already been wargamed by Iran. They planned for it, they built around it, and they did it while we were watching. The third threshold, I am going to be careful about how I describe this because some of what I know I am not in a position to detail publicly. What I can tell you is this. In every classified escalation model I reviewed between 2014 and 2019, there was a line item labeled Undisclosed Asymmetric Capability, meaning a capability that our intelligence community assessed Iran possessed but could not fully characterize. In 3 separate briefings, when analysts were pressed on what this referred to, the answer was always the same. We do not know what we do not know about what Iran has built underground. The tunnel network under Iran is not a metaphor. It is an infrastructure project 4 decades in the making. Hundreds of kilometers of hardened tunnels, each missile on its own dedicated platform, mapped in ways that no satellite has fully penetrated. When Iran says they have held back their most capable weapons, that is not propaganda. Our own assessments say the same thing. I want to bring this back to something concrete, because this is not just a foreign policy story. It is a personal financial story for every American watching this. Your gas prices are already up. As of this week, Brent crude is trading above $100 per barrel. That is the visible surface of the disruption Iran has already created, before deploying any of the 3 thresholds I just described. If Iran moves to threshold 1, the mine scenario, you are looking at gas prices between $5 and $7 per gallon within 90 days, sustained. Your 401k, if it has any exposure to airlines, shipping, manufacturing, or consumer goods, which most do, will feel the supply chain disruption within the first 60 days of a sustained strait closure. The Federal Reserve, which has already been struggling to manage inflation, will face an energy price shock it has no monetary policy tool to address. Rate hikes cannot fix a supply problem. This is why the administration is not being fully transparent about the risk profile of this operation, because if they were, the political cost would be immediate and severe. I want to leave you with a question that I believe is the most important one in this entire conflict, and that I have not heard a single analyst ask on any major network. If Iran has held back its most damaging capabilities for 3 weeks of war, what is it waiting for? In military strategy, you do not hold your best assets in reserve unless you are waiting for a specific condition to be met, a negotiating trigger, a political inflection point, a moment where deploying them achieves maximum effect. Iran is waiting for something, and Washington either does not know what it is, or does know and is not saying. I spent 34 years trying to answer questions like this. I do not have the answer today, but I know what the right question is, and so do you now. My name is General Marcus Webb. I spent 34 years inside the American intelligence structure so that you would never need to understand what I just told you. That is no longer the situation we are in. If this briefing gave you clarity that you are not getting elsewhere, subscribe. Turn on notifications. The next briefing is already being prepared, because this war is not over, and the part that matters most hasn't started yet.